So this is a two-parter.
Oh.
In terms of frog races, we have Slaads, Froghemoths, Bullywugs, Gripply, Blindheim, Grung, and Backtrachians. Though we only ever hear about Backtrachians, they're never actually seen. So none of them are good aligned. Does Wizards of the Coast hate frogs? And 2, do we need more frog races? And why is the answer yes?
Do we need more?
We're going to roll for it.
More frogs.
We were missing one of the dice.
Okay, we'll do that.
No, I got one.
Okay.
I rolled a 1.
That's a 3.
I got an 11. Okay. So, no, we don't have enough. Yes, Wizards of the Coast hates all amphibian and lizard creatures in general.
Yeah.
And that is some warm-blooded racism right there, and I'm not for it. I love Grung. We did a one-shot with Grung one time, and was loads of fun.
Yeah.
In my world, Grung are good aligned. So that's...
They look like they should be.
Yeah,
like
they're
tiny
cute,
and
but they're also like poisonous and kind of fucking deadly too, and they've got like some cool little things about them.
They're basically Pokemon. Let's be real.
Yeah, and you also missed the Banderhob as well.
Oh, did I? Okay.
Yeah, so like there's even more out there. Is
You're all just saying a lot of words that.
And yes, we should get more, and they should be good aligned or they should be neutral aligned. And I want desert toads. That's the one we're missing.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I like that.
Makes sense.
You were next, guy.
I rolled a 1, man.
Yeah, honestly, yeah, we should have more frog races because I think they're hilarious.
Yeah.
Right? And there's toads and they're just fun. But clearly Wizards of the Coast hates lizards or any sort of amphibian creature because it was just, they're all evil. Why are they all evil?
All reptiles are too, right?
Did Gary Gygax have just a horrible childhood experience with them?
I feel like a lot of this shit came up in 3rd edition as well. A lot of this shit, and you want to know what I'm sick of actually is Chwinga. We should replace Chwinga moving forward with good aligned grungs. That would make me happy.
Oh, that'd be adorable. But I don't know. I agree. I get yes. Question mark. Stop being a jerk to amphibious creatures, and again, to your point, you can make them good in your campaign if you want to. There's rarely do I ever really to pay attention to the actual chaotic neutral or whatever, blah blah blah. You can just do whatever you want.
I do it for the monsters like the Froghemoth, the Banderhob. Those ones are clearly evil. Mm-hmm. But the moment that they've got a language and a society, they're just NPCs.
Yeah, or a hierarchy, or a way of life,
Yeah, and we'll be addressing that a little bit later in this episode.
Welcome to the It's a Mimic podcast, where you never know what you're going to get.
Welcome to another It's a Mimic episode where we continue our conversation on monsters in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. I'm Adam, and with me today are Kyle and Megan, and this episode is called Slaadi. It's just a phage. I was very proud of that, I want you to know.
Yeah.
In this episode of the It's a Mimic podcast, the panel of Dungeon Masters is going to sit down and look at truly horrifying species bred from pure chaos, the Slaad. With deep links to the Plane of Limbo and a rich history from previous editions, these aberrations can and will leave a disgusting surprise for the unsuspecting character long after the fact. There are lots of opportunities for role-playing with these monsters, and they bring a unique sense of cosmic scope to their dread.
We're going to focus on the low-level Slaadi today, and move on to the high-level Slaadi in a few episodes. But before we actually get started, as always, kind of want to ask, have you ever run into the Slaad in your games before?
Let's roll.
I would like to point out that I rolled another 1, but you knocked it to a 5?
That's a 9.
Okay.
I'm a 7. Oh, and you're 8. We were 7, 8, 9. All right, so talk to yourself, Megan.
I will, absolutely.
Yeah.
Weirdly enough, I have not. I've run into other amphibious creatures and other things in campaigns, kind of knowing what they are, kind of not knowing what they are. So when I read about them, I actually really said, okay, I have to think of every campaign I've ever played with Adam. Has he used them before? And it took me a while to I don't think you have. I think you've used versions of other amphibious creatures. We've grung, we've used like all these kinds of
Yeah,
things.
you guys have fought bullywugs and froghemoths and like...
Yeah.
But I've steered clear of the Slaad.
Yeah, and I've never used them in my own campaigns, so I'm just like, okay. And then I've only ever played in a few other long-standing campaigns that had nothing to do with really 5th edition environments, so I've never really had the chance to run into them. So this was all new to me.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I'd never even heard of them. Even when you listed off those amphibious names, half of them I've never even heard of.
Well, some of them they just get like passing mentions in one of the campaign adventures, right?
Yeah.
Like they're not really focused on, even the bullywugs don't have the spotlight I feel they should in 5th edition.
Yeah.
Yeah, Frog and Moths is like one paragraph.
Yeah. Well, even with these ones, I was thinking in my head, like, have I run into them and just didn't know it? You know what I mean? Like, and didn't...
Funny story. We'll wait for my turn.
Yeah. But like, that's what I'm like. I'm like, there has to... And I've done that a million times with these things, where I was like,
Yeah.
no, Megan, you have fought that before. And I'm like, well, I didn't know.
Well, that's because, as a dungeon master, I don't use their names.
Yeah.
Well, that's what we have Dan at the table for. Oh, is that a thing? And I'm like, fuck, Dan, stop.
He ruins it for everybody.
Yeah. But if he has his brain on him, and Dave is shutting up and pretending he doesn't know, you and Casey and Charlie and Mieka are often just baffled. Like, I've never seen this shit before.
Yeah, what is this monstrosity?
The moment it's a Yugoloth or an Aberration or something out of Volos or Tomophos, yeah, you guys are in the dark. Which is
unless I'm fighting a god that's very obvious, I have no idea what the hell it is. 90% of the time.
All right, you sound like a great player to have. Right?
I like to think so. I look directly at it.
Super confrontational though with Dan.
I just make a lot of characters that are bitches, and Dad can't handle it. That's all.
Yeah, it's the characters. Kyle, what?
First of all, how dare?
I just recently ran into one for the first time, actually.
I mentioned to Dave last night. We're talking about Slaadi, and he's like, Kyle will have opinions.
Oh!
Well, in the campaign we're playing right now, Slaad just stole like a magical sword that we had from us. Like, it was in human form, and it was in front of a whole bunch of pollywogs, and basically we were trying to negotiate in good faith, and this motherfucker comes out and goes, I want that sword, and then just disappears. So now we're trying to find him again.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Dave gave me the backstory on this guy, and like, I think you have a campaign villain.
No, all right.
A semi-recurring campaign villain, like just, I had the Archmage, it just kept popping up.
That twat waffle, yes. I was trying to find a different word, but it's in my head. I can't.
You guys have absolutely run into a high-level Slaad in my campaign. They were shape-changed into a humanoid. And that will be a reveal for a future thing with the next campaign as we tie into it. Also, Dan asked me about 2 years ago to not include any Slaad if I could help it.
Okay.
Originally, do you remember we fought Dr. Plemons, who turned out to be a Rakshasa, who was doing all the experimentation and killing...
Body part swappings, yeah.
Yeah, and genocides and whatnot. Yeah.
Yep.
He was originally going to be a death Slaad.
Okay.
And then Dan requested that he has an idea for a mini campaign based around Slaad, but he doesn't want everyone to already be familiar with all their shit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Right? So I've held off as long as I could. I love Slaad. We should have done these episodes back when we did the Hags episodes.
Yeah.
But Dan was like, no, hold on. I want to do my campaign. And that was like a year and a half ago. And I'm like, oh, fuck it. I'm not waiting.
Fuck you, Dan.
You're not on my podcast anymore, you son of a bitch.
You have no control.
Shit or get off the pot.
Yeah.
How dare you not have additional days of the week? So I kind of kept them loaded in the chamber, ready to go. I love them. And I ran into them. We did a campaign in 3.5 against Slaadi, and it was fucking wild. Mm-hmm. So I'm excited to dig into this. But before we do, let's cut to a quick ad break.
We've previously covered quite a bit in our discussion on monsters in 5th edition. For all of those episodes and more, you can follow or subscribe at Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and dozens of other podcast apps. And if you'd like to support us, you can donate through the website, check out our store, or join our Patreon and get access to other episodes and series. If you'd like to pay for some ad space on It's a Mimic, or just send a shout out to a friend, please reach out to us through our email and website that are listed in the show notes below.
Before we get into what's going on the It's a Mimic podcast this week, I just want to thank everybody who has subscribed to our YouTube channel. We just cracked 700 subscribers, which is more than I ever thought that we would get, considering we don't really have any video. So thanks to everyone for supporting us. Don't be afraid to drop a comment and say hello. This week we've got a couple of extra episodes. It is Legend Lore, where Megan and I sit down and talk Storm King's Thunder, as well as another episode with the ladies on Undead, where they cover what happens when you can't keep your head or other body parts. But before any of that, we take a good long look at our expectations and our reactions to Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves, with an extra little bonus bit on the Patreon for silver tier subscribers. Anyway, let's get back to the show. Once upon a time, many, many years ago, Primus, the creator and ruler of Modrons, sat on his throne in Mechanus and contemplated Limbo, the chaotic neutral plane and ultimate realm of change, disorder, and anarchy. Were either of you guys on the episode where we covered the chaotic planes?
Nope. I did the nice planes.
You did the upper planes.
I was all in the nice upper planes.
Yeah, I think I did Limbo.
You did Limbo.
Yeah.
So you're familiar then. We'll keep you up to speed then,
Yeah.
Megan, really briefly here.
For the audience that is unaware, you know.
Yeah. Limbo is the chaotic and neutral plane. It is the most chaotic, and to the point where all four of the elements, being earth, fire, wind, and water, are all... Sorry?
That's a great band.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I always have to double check because I will say earth, fire, air, and wind. And it fucks me up because air and wind are the same thing. Anyway, so... those four elements are in constant flux. There are no rules, no laws of physics in Limbo. So you could be walking through a field in one moment, and then suddenly you'll be in the belly of a dungeon, and the next minute everything will be on fire, and now suddenly it's geometric shapes, and now you are falling through a river of blood, and then the moment after that you are undead for no reason whatsoever. And it's just like the world around you is in constant flux, and there are like pockets of pure chaos and pure energy, and these small little bastions of order where the Giths Zerai have set up little cities, but it takes all of their psychic and psionic abilities to keep these cities from changing and morphing. So there's a handful of places where you can exist, but for the most part, the entire plane is just pure fucking just chaos and anarchy. There are not a whole lot of creatures that live here, except for the Slaad. So, back to Primus. He was sitting there and he was looking at Limbo and saying, okay, Limbo's an issue because it is like radiating chaos out into the into all of the other planes. Mm-hmm. So he made a mathematically complex and geometrically perfect stone in Mechanus and imbued it with law and order and organization. He thought it would bring order to Limbo and stop its influence on the other planes of existence. So he sent this massive, powerful stone to Limbo, and it started to change the plane of absolute chaos. Modrons, Giths Zerai, and other creatures were able to eke out simple existences there and build bastions and fortresses that they could keep the chaos at bay from. But just as the stone impacted the chaos impacted the stone. And from the stone sprouted horrible, twisted, bipedal, toad-like aberrations of pure anarchy and random-mindedness, the Slaadi, which is what we're talking about today. Scholars and wise men across the plains have since referred to Mechanus's great construction as the spawning stone, because it actually spawns these aberrations. Yeah. And it still exists in Limbo to this day, constantly belching out more Slaadi. But this isn't the only way that Slaadi can reproduce, which we'll get into in a moment. And as such, their numbers have always been swelling for eons. Since their inception, they just keep producing. And they now are the primary inhabitants of Limbo. They also are able to walk across Limbo without being affected by the innate nature of the plane itself, because they're birthed pretty much from the plane.
Yeah, it's like two wrongs make a right.
Yeah. They have wiped out all the Modrons in Limbo and will attack any Modron on sight just because the little constructs are so antithetical to the base philosophies of the Slaad's mere existence, right? Modrons are pure order, Slaadi are pure chaos. Despite this violence, Primus still stands by his creation, believing that the spawning stone will still work if given enough time, and the Slaadi are just merely a minor, unfortunate, and temporary side effect. They're clearly fucking not temporary.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the Slaadi have been reproducing, spreading across the planes and even the multiverse, and seem to be doing everything they can to swell the numbers and spread their unique brand of chaos wherever they go. And they truly are chaotic. While their reproduction cycle is horrific and violent, they themselves aren't necessarily evil for the most part. They're just anarchists and forces of chaotic nature. Among themselves, they have no hierarchy, but the general idea of might makes right does rule them to the point where they could actually be murdered by other ones that are more powerful than them if they don't fall in line.
Yeah. They can also birth more Slaad from sloths, right? Like if they can catch the chaos phage and then become another. They're weird.
Yeah, it's wild.
We'll make you our own.
They range in size, starting as horrible little tadpoles that are tiny and ranging up to large size. But it's the medium ones that are the most dangerous, and they're the ones that we're going to talk about in a couple episodes. We're going to focus on the large size mostly today.
Frightening, by the way.
Yes.
A 10-foot-tall frog thing. Ugh.
Yeah, and that's medium. Oh no, medium goes up to what, 8 feet?
8, yeah, and then the larger 10.
Yeah. So, in this episode, we're going to focus on the two basic kinds of Slaadi that you're more likely to run into, the red Slaadi and the blue Slaadi. It's likely that we'll touch briefly on green Slaadi too, but we'll be saving their weird life cycle for a future episode. What's interesting, though, is that the red Slaadi are the lowest kind of Slaadi in terms of power, but they are particularly violent, and their existence leads to the creation of blue Slaadi. The blue Slaadi are even tougher and deadlier, and they create red Slaadi. So there's an odd yin-yang to them, a bizarre reliance on each other, and an ever-spiraling life cycle. Any given red or blue Slaad walks upright with a kind of lumbering gait, and their large frog heads rest upon broad shoulders. They have beady eyes, bright, speckled or mottled skin with rough bumps on their backs, and claws as big as a human's forearm. Their legs are powerful and built like a toad's, and in previous editions, they had the ability to jump effectively across a battlefield and cover half the distance in one leap, which was particularly terrifying. We don't have that anymore in 5th edition, but I will be homebrewing that shit in.
Yeah, they really dumbed them down. Made them a lot pretty boring compared to everything else I read about them.
Yeah, basic.
Yeah. when I complain about the boring stat blocks of 5th edition, I think of demons, devils, dragons, and Slaad.
Mm-hmm.
They all got neutered, essentially. So
they used to have a croaking ability too, right?
Yeah.
That could stun people.
Yep.
Yeah.
Some of them could.
Yeah.
They were also inherent spellcasters. Some of the other ones were, and we get a little bit of that, but not to the same degree. They were powerful spellcasters.
Yeah, even the fighting ones at one point had spells. Yeah.
But this is kind of where the uniformity ends as far as the description goes, because no two Slaadi look alike, move the same way, or act in the same manner. Because of the chaos of them, they are all different from each other.
Mm-hmm.
In previous editions, they'd have extra organs or enlarged body parts or even wings, tails, or hair. The weirdest one that I ever saw art for was Slaad with Medusa hair, so it was snakes.
Oh, all right.
So
I hate it.
things got chaotic and fucking weird. So, interestingly, other editions actually point us to a weird kind of society-like tribalism that they had. In Limbo, because they're impervious to the chaos and the elemental storms there, the only needs they ever had were food, drink, and sleep. Therefore, the idea of possessions meant nothing to them. This encouraged them to trade items that they found or took for seemingly random prices. Trying to understand a Slaad is an effort in futility because their minds are absolute random chaos, and you never know what you're going to end up doing during an interaction. There's a sense that maybe this might mean wacky or random encounters, or low intelligence creatures fumbling over themselves like ogres, but the lack of intelligence, wisdom, and charisma in the lesser Slaadi have more to do with the fact that they're pure chaos and can't latch onto a large scheme. It's almost like, it's not that they're unaware of their surroundings, they have ADHD.
Yeah.
They're not stupid in the traditional sense. They're distracted by the next shit that comes along. And while you could play this up for humor, their lore is not humorous, right?
Yeah.
The other major factor of Slaadi life, at least for the red and blue Slaadi, that we're going to talk about today, is the fact that they understand power only in terms of what they have accomplished and who they have defeated somehow. It doesn't have to be in physical combat, although that's usually the context it's presented in.
Mhm.
If they can trick or subjugate another to their will, that also counts. If a blue Slaad dominates a red Slaad in combat, it's likely that other nearby Slaadi will challenge that blue Slaad in order to prove their prowess and skill. So if they dominate them through sheer force of will, others will come forward to say, no, I have more willpower than you. If they beat them in a race, others will be like, I'm faster than you.
Mhm.
And there's this consistent idea of having to prove yourself. This means that there's an ever-shifting and always fervent reordering of power and dominance among the Slaadi, unless there is a clear leader or victor. What this also means is that if you fight and defeat one, it's likely that others will come hunting you, not because you're a threat, but because you're a challenge. Now, there's a variant rule for the Slaadi called the control gems. You don't have to include this in your games, but experienced players will probably be looking for this. For Slaadi that are spawned directly from the spawning stone, they end up with a small piece of stone embedded in their brains. In previous editions, it was affixed to their skulls, but in 5th edition, it appears to be within the brain itself. The gem matches the color of the specific Slaad and is roughly the size of a human child's fist. If a Slaad is born in a different way, they don't have a control gem, and they're better off for it. It says in the monster manual that you can use magic, specifically the imprisonment or wish spells, or a successful DC 20 medicine check on an incapacitated Slaad to extract the gem. If you possess the gem, the Slaad must obey you. They can't be charmed while they're under your control, but they have to do what they're told. If you try to get one and fail the medicine check, it does heaping amounts of psychic damage to the Slaad, and you will probably end up killing it.
Yeah.
If the gem is destroyed, then that Slaad can no longer be controlled. That's it. There's no negative side to that. And one other weird little detail is that Slaadi who are in limbo are supernaturally attracted to the spawning stone. And if they touch it when they don't have a control gem, then one manifests within their brains. It says in the book that most Slaadi in limbo end up with control gems one way or the other. I think this implies that there's a huge swarm of Slaadi at the spawning stone because they're all drawn there. And they would hang out there for a while. Like this is kind of their base, their center.
So they're watering holes.
They have mating seasons.
Yeah.
Where like each color will go at a certain time of the year and they'll just like swing around and then they'll fertilize each other. That's what I read. So like, I don't know, I guess they lay a huge clutch of eggs and then just...
Well, they don't even...
I don't want to say it out loud, but I think you can get what I'm going for.
Yeah, and it's not even necessarily that that's an awkward fucking wink.
Never link at me again.
And I'll do it again, too.
As much as like they do lay eggs, it's really not a part of their life cycle anymore in 5th edition.
Yeah.
That's all previous edition stuff. Because of kind of the gross imagery and stuff that it gives there. But I would say that they probably leave the old or infirm Slaadi behind for the next cycle to come through to hit them with either the Chaos Phage or to impregnate them with the eggs and the tadpoles that'll burst from them. Like, we're going to get into that shit in a little bit. But I feel like if you're not able to defend yourself, they will just use their weird reproductive cycle on you to make better, newer Slaadi.
Or just straight up eat you.
Yeah.
Om nom.
Because what food is there in limbo? The one thing that they're just able to spawn from nothing is more Slaadi. Once you have a control gem, it seems like the calling to the spawning stone is lessened. I couldn't find that anywhere, but the idea that the Slaadi are expanding out into the multiverse means that this call can't be too intense, and it only seems to affect the ones in any lore that I read that don't already have the gem in them. It begs the question about what Slaadi without control gems that are on other planes might think about returning to Limbo. If you were, for example, in the Shadowfell as a Slaad, and you did not have a control gem, would you want to go to Limbo?
I feel like you're called back every once in a while, no matter what.
Yeah, I feel like it's like a natural draw to be like, oh, I should go back to this place.
Specifically only while in Limbo
Yeah.
that you are called to the spawning stone.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it is out there that they're trying to go out there and spread their numbers out into the plains. So, and remember, if you go back to Limbo, then you're called to the spawning stone, and then you get this thing in your head that other people can use to control you. It has no benefit for you to have otherwise. So it's strategic for you to not have one.
I would almost like, if I was to have this in a campaign, I feel if you were to leave Limbo, it would have to be a certain period of time for you to lose the urge to go back. Because I feel like you would. It's not like, in my mind, it wouldn't disappear immediately because it's so ingrained in your being that you've been called back to this place to do this thing, that it would be a specific period of time that it would take for you to not want to do it again.
I like the exact opposite of that. I think that you're right, but I like the idea of there being a Slaad NPC that follows you through a portal and immediately goes, oh my god, I'm free of that.
Yeah.
And having that moment of, thank you so much. And because as much as they are chaotic and they're violent and they're set up to be monsters in 5th edition, they were an NPC race in previous editions.
Yeah.
They were a people with societies. They had their own ships in Spelljammer. They were able to show up. And also, I mean, Dragonlance features a red Slaad, like there's art for a red Slaad covered in tadpoles walking around in Dragonlance. There's nothing that, they're not even a part of the Great Wheel of Cosmology, right?
Mm-hmm.
Limbo does not exist for them. So it's interesting to think about how they exist elsewhere, and because we now have Spelljammer and the Radiant Citadel, the idea of planar hopping to and from different campaign settings is a lot easier.
Yeah.
I assume that when we get Planescape, which comes out later this year, at the end of the year, we'll get even more ways to hop between Eberron and Ravnica and the Forgotten Realms and Greyhawk and all that shit, right? So, it's interesting. I'm curious to see if the Slaadi themselves will be treated as NPCs in books or just as monsters. Because I do like them as weird merchants, as odd guides that you can't really trust, as mercenaries that could flip in an instant, right? So there's a really cool dynamic here because of the random nature, that you as a dungeon master can come up with different rules for each different one. And not like this group, this small tribe of them, this small enclave of Slaadi all react this way. No, each one is different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's grab
Islands
that.
onto themselves kind of thing.
Yeah.
No.
I have questions.
Oh, God!
God damn it,
Thanks
Megan.
for catching that, Kyle. I got a 12.
I got a 12 too. Kyle got a 2.
I got a
Okay.
2.
Here, let's roll off, Megan.
I like the fact that you bumped it to a larger number.
Yeah.
I don't remember which one I rolled.
I got a 20, so you got a 15.
A 15. Okay, well, I was like, I don't remember which one I rolled. You're like, mine's the 20.
Okay, so I'm asking myself first. How do you feel about the weird kind of reproductive cycle? I fucking love it. It's wild. It's weird. We have nothing else like it. And it's goddamn horrifying.
Yes.
For anyone who hasn't read up on these things before. There's a clear amount of body horror that you can really lean into in this. And this
It's very
is why
grotesque. Yeah.
I love Aberrations. The fact you get chest bursters out of this. We'll get into that when we talk about the red Slaad, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, just wait.
Well,
I got something ready for this. I got something
Ripe.
real right.
we also have some weird Kafka-esque like metamorphosis, like horror from the blue Slaad as well, right?
Yeah.
There's some gnarly shit going on here. I fucking love it. Megan.
Yeah, I agree. I think because I'm a horror fanatic. And it's horror, not horror fanatic.
Well, you can be both. I support it, Megan.
Thank you. Thank you.
We gotta love ourselves, right?
Yeah, yeah. How the hell are you gonna love
I'm
somebody
gonna get fucking stabbed by the end of this episode.
I will smother you with my hat. But yes, no, I agree. Like, I think it's a new, interesting visual, especially for people that have not come across them before. And then having it, like, unfurl in front of them would be absolutely horrifying to describe.
Yeah,
especially if you're not playing in a fearful, grotesque campaign. You're just playing in a regular D&D campaign.
And suddenly this shit hits.
It happens. It's very Alien-esque, right?
Yeah.
Like,
I feel like this is one of those things that you mentioned, like, how do we feel about, like, I don't know, that scene in Aliens, and you bring that up into session 0, planning 90 sessions from now, you're going to drop this shit on them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
you infect a player
That's
and
cool.
then 3 months later, you like hit them with it.
Yeah.
yeah.
Kyle, do you like it?
I have a few thoughts on this, so get ready.
I'm going to buckle
okay.
in.
Buckling up.
First, the stone itself. I love it. It's dumb. It's random. And it is like exactly what I would expect from a being of pure order. Like
It screamed Spelljammer to me when I was reading it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
oh yeah, I can see that. But it's like, oh, I know, I'm going to make this perfect rock, and then once Chaos sees it, they're going to have no choice but to, fall and get in line, and then puts it in Chaos, and then Chaos goes, you know what, that's great, I'm going to fuck there.
This is where I am going to fuck.
Yeah. But that's kind of how I run Primus too, is the fact that he is this all-knowing, perfect computer that cannot see outside of his own limitations.
Yeah, has no concept of it.
Yeah. So I mean, he builds the Modrons. They are constructs, right? And so the idea, it would never occur to him that people will choose to fuck here because it's a land of order and not like sweaty bodies slapping in the middle of fucking limbo.
But
the sound of this place, I don't want it.
With ribbits.
Oh, God. Oh, no.
Yeah, because I think life is the perfect example of, a blend of order and chaos together, too, right? So it's kind of...
slapping cheeks and croaks, you know?
And everything... God damn. That just like summarizes my basic philosophy that everything boils down to either sex or death. That's a great motivator.
Yeah.
So slapping cheeks and croaks.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I can get that tattooed across my chest.
No, you gotta get it tattooed on your face.
I also like how there's just so many ways they can reproduce, right?
Yeah.
Like, they can come out of the spawning stone, they can either get the chaos phage, they can get eggs implanted into them, they can... It's not even...
They can touch butts,
they can
whatever
touch
they want
butts,
to do.
but they can also, merge with other life forms as well, right?
Yeah.
I love the open opportunities that you have to mix a Slaad with something else as well. Like, I would love to see a Slaad dragon.
Yeah, the idea is that the dragon would eventually just become a Slaad, but, there's got to be a transition period, right?
But there was one I was reading about where, a tadpole gets mixed up with a quadrone, right? And so it's basically teaches the quadrone, free will and creativity and stuff.
You're bringing up stuff from previous editions, and the lore from previous editions is so rich.
Yeah.
We don't have that kind of shit in 5th ed, but we fucking should. So I'm all about it. I'm with you 100%.
Yeah. But what I do have a grievance with is the color system, right? Like, why does it go...
From a color theory standpoint, it makes no sense.
Yeah, and it pisses me off.
The green Slaad should be a purple Slaad, right?
Yes. Right? And then the next one should be...
mauve?
Orange. No, orange and something else. So, green mixed with red and green mixed with blue.
I choose to think about it as it just being pure chaos. The reason it doesn't make sense is because they don't make sense.
Because chaos.
Yeah, but there is an order to them, right? Especially if you're digging into the previous editions, right? Where they had mating seasons where they come back. Nobody understands it but them, right? They still have an order to them because they do still come from the order stone. So, I don't know.
My next question is, what are the thoughts on the chaos phage? But we didn't get into that yet, so I'll save that one for later.
We'll double back for that one.
What kind of evidence or clues might you leave to foreshadow an incoming Slaad issue? For me, you're going to find a corpse with its chest burst out, right? Mm-hmm. We didn't really get into it yet, but the tadpole bursts forth from the chest once someone gets implanted with an egg. And I want to see that. Mm-hmm. I think at this point, most people are familiar with the idea of an intellect devourer and how they will burst out of a skull. Mm-hmm. So if you find a skull that has, been blown open from the inside, they're going to be looking for intellect devourers and mind flayers. But because Slaadi are generally unknown for most people, unless Critical Role has done Slaadi, and I don't know that.
Yeah, I wouldn't know either, sorry.
But I don't think that it's as popular. It would be really cool to see, the chest, just the corpse of the chest blown wide the fuck open.
That's just the beginning of your alien movie research project.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I was going to go the opposite direction and do the fact that people are starting to go missing, which is a very classic D&D walk into a town trope. Yeah. You go to the tavern, and they're like, oh yeah, people have been going missing for an XYZ period of time. And, like, you would never expect that it's a Slaadi issue. You would just expect that it's just, like, something that's happening, another big bad or what have you.
Yeah.
But, like, they're taking people because they're giving them the disease and hoarding them somewhere. And then eventually you find, like, a large corral filled with people with this disease. And then, yeah, I just think that was the way I would go. Like,
all in, like different sort of, like, fucking Cronenberg-esque mutations.
Mutations,
They're all
yeah.
in the middle of it. The ones in the very, very back are almost Slaadi.
Mm-hmm.
The ones in the very front are just like, kill me.
Yeah.
Kill me now.
Or it could be the opposite. Well, you go into a town or whatever, and then, like, you go to your local pharmacy, I don't know, or you're going to get your people healed. And when you're there, you come across people that are trying to heal these. People are in the middle of their transformation, right?
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Mine would have been the same. You find a corral of these people all stuck together, which I think also would fit in with yours, Adam, where you could describe an actual chest burster scene.
Yeah.
Right?
I would also like in the evening time when it gets really quiet and you're in the middle of a forest, instead of hearing crickets, if you're, like, on watch and you do a perception check, you actually hear, like, the croaks of frogs. And it's just, like, it seems seemingly problematic.
And they pull out their fucking list and start checking it off. Okay, is it coming from the trees? No, not grung. Is it super fucking loud and echoey? Okay, no, not a froghemoth. What do we got? Bullywugs? How do we know if it's a bullywug or not? Right? Like, you gotta slowly work. The sound of croaking frogs in the dark should terrify you. Like hyenas laughing in the dark. Mm-hmm. That should fucking terrify you if you're a D&D player, right?
Yeah. I also like the idea of coming into contact with, like, a Grey or a Death Slaad while they're in human form, and they just talk about how they think your party would make great offspring. Like, oh, you look very strong. I bet you would make excellent children.
Like,
maybe you would like to come over sometime, have dinner, meet my family.
So we didn't really get into the Grey or the Death Slaad yet, and I want to really dig into it for the next episode we do it.
Yeah.
But I love the idea of them, like, squeezing the barbarians, like, biceps and going, "Oh, you're fertile."
Yeah.
Like,
I hate it. Ew. But, like, do you think they take that into consideration when they're like choosing their meats? I don't know.
Well, it's going to depend because they're so chaotic. I feel like they're going to see if you have a power, they're going to lean into it, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
A sorcerer will be just as good. A weak little sorcerer that can cast third level spells is just as good to them as a barbarian or a fighter or a paladin, right? So it depends what they want out of you.
Yeah, I guess so. Touche.
I don't think that they're going to bother too much with your average peasant, right? Or children necessarily. Like, a lot of D&D creatures will prey on kids. Your kids are not safe in Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
There are too many fae and hags, and, like, there's too much shit going on. Devils and
Goblin Kings, you know.
Yeah.
They're just so easy to trick. I mean, come on.
It's true.
I almost went to a dark place. We're going to move on.
Yeah,
I was like, oh, I'm almost on a watch list now.
Oh, no.
But with Slaadi, I feel like they're targeting the important members of a society. And it might be political power that they want. If they think that they can get a green Slaad and then eventually a death Slaad or a gray Slaad out of this, they may go hunting the mayor, who might be physically weak and not have any magical abilities, but has political power, and that's a shape-shifting opportunity in the future.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So there are all sorts of different mentalities that they could come at, and again, they'll have different Slaad will have different mentalities. So
yeah. I imagine, like, the lower level ones, they only have two prerogatives, and that's eat and reproduce. Right? Because it's so built in to them that they do it accidentally. Like, they don't even have to try.
And prove their power.
Yeah.
That's the other thing, too, right? So, what kind of unique role-playing opportunities can you lean into with the Slaadi? I was thinking that there are two unique things, just sitting here talking about it with you guys right now. Two things occurred to me. One is when they're trading for items, I think even the red and blue Slaad will trade for items. And they will, but they will always want your most powerful thing from their perspective.
Yeah.
So that they can therefore trade it to get more food, because what else do they want? Either more power or more food. their claws are the best weapons that they have. They don't need your sword. They don't need your breastplate. They don't care.
Yeah.
Right? But they might take the monk's +1 hand wraps, right? Or the belt that lets you enlarge, or shit like that.
Your giant strength potions,
Yeah.
like that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So they're not going to necessarily want your +4 sword. They're going to be like, what scrolls do you have, right? And they may want access to that. The other thing I'm thinking about is with the spawning stone and how it imbues Limbo with a sense of order. Do you think the Slaadi that are closest to it, that have congregated around it, have clearer thoughts? Because they are currently being almost infected by the order of the spawning stone.
So would you consider that being clearer or more guided and focused?
Yeah, more ordered. Like, clearer thoughts is in they're able to focus with more attention. They're able to have more complex schemes. They're able to follow rules a little bit more. They'll understand the idea of a mating season makes a lot of sense when you're at the spawning stone. But when you're 150 miles away from it, fucking why?
Yeah.
Why would we do that? I gotta go over here and I gotta go eat this, and then I gotta go beat up that guy, and then I gotta go jump over to the astral sea, right? Like, you have other priorities. But I feel like when you're by the spawning stone, you might get sucked into almost like a vortex. If you're going to, like, of order, not an actual, like, maelstrom.
Yeah.
But I feel like if you need to talk to the head Slaad, you head to the spawning stone, and you might actually get a clearer answer. There may be real motivations there.
I don't know. I feel like it'd be, because their motivations then would be very specific. I feel like it gets clear in the sense where they understand why they do what they do, because they're kind of being controlled. So they're very limited in their options of thinking about other things.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like when they're outside, it feels chaotic because they now have all of these thoughts they're allowed to have. They're not very hyper-focused on their 3 main ways of living.
Yeah.
Right? So you're going to get that chaotic speech of like, oh, I can do whatever the fuck I want now. It's Rumspringer, you know what I mean? Like, I'm out of here! Whereas like when they're by the stone, they're like, oh, well, all I have to do is eat, sleep, and fuck. Like,
And all of that's right here.
Yeah, like, why would I ever leave? And it's very clear-minded in that sense.
But
But it's closed in my mind.
Yeah, I think it depends on what your perspective of, like, how the spawning stone interacts with chaos, right? And how chaos interacts with the spawning stone. Because in my mind, the area around the spawning stone is more heavily imbued with chaos, right? Because the spawning stone is trying to pull it into itself to change it over, then chaos is trying to attack it.
Yeah.
And then bring it into chaos.
Okay, from my perspective, the idea that it was being able to produce life was a little bit of chaos got into the spawning stone, but you need order. You need to, like, line up the genetics appropriately to be able to push out, like, and it is literally pushing out life forms all of the time.
Yeah.
It's not clear actually what the frequency is for when it actually spawns another Slaad, but I would say it's fairly frequent.
Yeah.
I mean,
chaotic. I think it would just
I feel like there's
totally
order to
random.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, I just think like the idea of spreading out into the multiverse has to be intentional.
Yeah.
Right? And so either the ones that are further away are able to kind of shake off a little bit of Limbo and reorder their thoughts a little bit, or the ones that are at the spawning stone. And I like this dynamic too, where they're like, okay, we have this plan. We are going to go and we're going to take over the 9 hells specifically, because then we're going to get access to these places, and they've got this order. There's a plan, there's a structure, there's a way to move forward. But those motherfuckers get 200 miles out from here, and they lose fucking track.
They start like looking at their maps, throw them around, like, I don't know what the fuck is this shit.
And just because it is pure chaos, occasionally someone ends up in the 9 hells, and they try to do something, but it's not at all the plan. It's like in Guardians of the Galaxy with Baby Groot and the red button.
Yeah.
Right? Every time that they get far enough away, they just lose sight of what the shit is that they're supposed to be doing.
Okay, I'm going to go over here. Oh, look, a butterfly.
Yeah.
Oh my! I don't know.
Someone had a really important message to send. God, I hope it wasn't me.
Why do I have this? I can't even read.
What is this bag of mail?
Is this food?
I'm gonna eat it anyways.
It's not food.
Yeah. No, that kind of leans into like my idea of what you could lean into for role playing, and it's like sometimes you have to remember that most of them are going to be mind controlled, so they're going to be very narrow minded sometimes. So even in their chaos, like they're going to have one thing that they have to get done, right? So it's always going to come back to that, whether or not they're going to be cognitive enough to trade with you, or they're going to be cognitive enough to understand that they can't or can beat you. They're still going to have a train of thought being like, this is my goal and this is supposed to be do, because they are mind controlled. Some of them anyways, right? Depending on what they're mind controlled for. So depending on your campaign, what you're using them for is remember that they're mind controlled. And if they are being mind controlled, be very like noting what it is that their goal is, because they're going to be very focused on that, if not everything else around them.
Yeah, I think if you have their control gem, that'll be the calmest Slaad you'll ever see.
That's it. Like because they're like, oh, I don't really have to think of anything, because like someone is in control.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
A voice is cutting through the white noise static inside my head.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, it just shuts everything off. Radio silence. Quiet. And then they get their stone back, and it's like, ah! Must go fuck.
That could be an interesting story if they gave it up willingly. Like, they're like, take it out of me. Like, I need...
Well, you have to quiet my mind. Take control. I don't want... Like...
Or is it the exact opposite? Would it horrify them? It's too quiet. I think about, like, any time in Star Trek that a Borg gets, like, separated from the collective, and they're all like, oh god, where's everybody else? Yeah. I cannot hear the voice anymore. Where's the collective? Right? There's no hive mind here, but suddenly the chaos, suddenly you're able to stop and string together a full thought. Is that terrifying if you've never done that before?
Okay.
Or is that empowering?
So I also now thinking about it in the opposite direction, the sense where one person has multiple stones.
Yep.
And then they can only, all of them hear the voice at the same time. And now that, like, if they lose that voice, they would go insane. So they can't leave this person or each other at a certain distance, because they would, again, lose that quiet mind.
If you've got players who are consistently, like they're long-term players, they've run into Slaad 3 or 4 times now, then having them run into a marching battalion of Slaadi that have fallen into ranks and are using weapons and shit, would be like, what the fuck is this about? And it's because somebody has collected 700 stones.
Yeah.
Right? And so now the Slaadi aren't acting like Slaadi anymore, and you've got a mastermind. Mm-hmm. That's badass. That's frightening.
Yep.
And it's a fucking gnome. Like, you just know it is.
He's riding on the shoulders of the biggest one to the back. Yeah.
No inherent powers either. Ran across one of these by accident one day and just like, go find another one for me. And it's just been spiraling out of control for 6 years, and now he's got an army.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, yeah. I like that.
I love it.
So Slaad have natural enemies. Clearly the Githzerai, who are also in limbo and represent order. They can't stand Modrons. And some of the older lore has them versus devils quite a bit as well, because devils are lawful evil, and devils have a plan for the way that the universe should be run. And the Slaadi are not following that plan.
Yep.
This is also true of Celestials and Illithids as well. They have a plan. They know how the universe... remember, Illithids have already conquered the universe, traveled back in time, and are displaced because their empire has fell at the end of time, and they need to get back to that, right? And I'm sure that they have opinions of the Slaad, or the Slaadi. So, who's your favorite antagonist against the Slaadi? If you're going to have a big set-piece conflict between the Slaadi and someone else, who do you pick? I myself am going to pick devils, because now this is some warlock shit I get to bring into the table.
Yeah. Right.
Where a devil pops up and says, hey, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Hey, adventurers, I need your help, and I will give you shit if you kill that. And now you're aligning with the devils?
Yeah.
That's suspect at best, right?
Yeah. Or depending on like what your character, like your PC's backstories are, you can tie it into what your warlock's gods of end game is, right? So you can actually tie it into your players, which would make it very easy.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite?
I like the Gith, and I think it's because we've talked about them a lot.
Yeah.
And again, I think it's the good versus evil, but it's also the mind control versus the mind control.
The poor Giths Arai have so many fucking like inherent enemies everywhere around them. All the Gith Yankee, the Lithids, and now the Slaadi as well. And none of these are just like chumps. They're like, fuck.
No, but again, I also like the mind control versus mind control aspect to it as well. Like, because you can play with that as much as you like with a PC as well. So, yeah, I go Gith.
Or I'd pick Modrons because I think it's a hilarious mental image. These giant hulking frog creatures fighting.
Tiny, like small size robots.
Yeah. Right? It's just I think devils would probably use them, right? Like it would be part of their plan as like a distraction. Or send these in or like somehow lure them somewhere, right?
Mm. One of my favorite things about Modrons, and I bring this up once every like 80 episodes or so, is that they cannot perceive of any other Modrons that are 2 levels away from them. So like there's the monodrones, which are the spheres. Duodrones are obviously they've got the 2 faces. And then tridrones and quadrones and so on and so forth all the way up. But if you are a 6-sided Modron, you cannot conceive of anything below a quadrone or anything above an octadrone. They just do not exist. They are part of the landscape, and you are not aware of the fact that these are creatures. So having an army go to war like that, like your programming does not allow you to see or recognize these creatures. Which is fucking wild.
It's hilarious.
Some weird concept.
Yeah. Right. But the idea of the frogs just ripping into like the biggest one there and all the little ones just standing there going, huh. Yeah. I wonder what that frog is doing.
It looks mad.
So I want to get into really quickly here the Slaad Tadpole. There's not a whole lot here, but we do have a stat block. They're going to be very important when we talk about the red Slaad in a minute here, but here's a little context for you. The Slaad Tadpole has a AC of 12. It is tiny, chaotic neutral. This thing is essentially a mouth. It is a very large tadpole with, jagged teeth. It's got 4d4 hit points, which is an average of 10. And it can actually move up to 30 feet, which is surprising how much these things can wriggle around.
And they're so
Did you say
tiny.
40 feet?
30.
They're just super fast,
Yeah.
Like, I imagine being a kid trying to catch tadpoles in the water and, like, be like, and, like, not being able to get them.
Interestingly, they don't have a swim speed.
Yeah, I thought that was really weird, too.
But, I mean, I think that they burst out of a chest and then just go scurrying across the land. And it's built right in that it's a matter of hours before they become a full Slaad, right? So they have high dex, average con, and everything else sucks. And their stealth is +4, which is hilarious. Gives me that face hugger kind of feel to it as well, right? So they have damage resistances to acid, cold, fire, lightning, and thunder, which would help them survive in limbo, right? Dark vision up to 60 feet, shitty passive perception. They understand the language of Slaad, but they can't speak. They've got a CR of 1/8. Also, they have what all Slaadi have, magic resistance, which means it has advantage on saving throws against spells and other magical effects. In combat, they can bite, which means they can actually slither up to 30 feet towards you. The image of that is really gross. Just coming right up to you and just chewing on your ankles.
Yeah, they would definitely leave like a mucus-like trail.
Oh, I think so. Yeah.
Like a slug.
Yeah.
It's +4 to hit, and they do 1d4 plus 2 piercing damage. So they're not huge threats, except for the commoners that your party is escorting to safety.
Yeah.
I do love having these low-level threats attack large parties that are getting, like caravans that are getting escorted, that have 4 hit points and an AC of 10, right? So these things will be downing the average peasant left, right, and center. Cows are dropping as these things burrow in, right? It's a lot of fun. Against adventurers, not so much. Interesting opportunity for actual encounters, though, with them. Let's roll dice on the tadpoles themselves. So assuming there's no other Slaadi around, I have some questions about how you would have tadpoles themselves be an encounter. So let's roll dice.
Okay.
You got a 14?
I got a 4.
7.
All right.
That's a 1, Megan.
No, it's not. You're lying.
That is a 1 day.
Oh. I hate everyone.
These guys are not necessarily about... I don't think you can build necessarily a quest around a tadpole.
It's hard. Yeah.
It is, especially because they're not a tadpole for very long. By the time that you are quested and you've gone out to go shopping and, all right, we're ready to go kill the thing, you have a Slaad.
Yeah.
Right? So we're just going to skip that one. The body horror aspect here is, I think, the key thing.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be slimy and razor sharp teeth and just horrible. Like, I think about the mottled nature of a red and blue Slaad. Most of them are like this, but they've got this like speckled skin that's all chaotic and bumpy and gross. So these things are not just like smooth worms either. They've got some texture to them.
Oh, like they're covered in pimples.
Yeah.
When you were saying like speckled, I immediately thought of, did you guys ever watch Reboot when you were a kid?
God.
Yeah.
The slugs in Reboot?
Yeah. Yeah.
Are they not just red and blue Slaadi?
They're nulls.
Anyways, that was a sidebar, but there you go.
Assuming that they had razor sharp teeth and a desperate need to feed on flesh.
Yeah.
I assume that all Slaadi are omnivorous, but choose to be carnivorous.
Yeah,
There's not a whole lot of plant life.
Opportunity eaters.
Yeah.
Yeah, like if I can eat it, I'm gonna eat it.
Yeah.
Like I don't really, yeah.
But I don't picture, cornfields in limbo.
No, I don't see them being like, I could really use a salad today. Like I just need some leaves. Like sometimes they're just like, okay, I'm on a bender and I should probably eat a vegetable. I don't think they get that feeling. They're like McDonald's every day if I could.
Although you could totally come across one just going to town on a field of pumpkins.
Yeah. Ooh, that's fair.
Anything that they could burrow into and
Yeah.
like maybe hide while they wait. Right.
Yeah. Is there anything else besides, okay, so slimy, they're bumpy, they got razor sharp teeth, they're fast and stealthy. What else as far as body horror?
Yeah, I mean, just coming out. Like you were saying chest burster, but I think it would also be fun if they like just burst out of their face. Right?
It doesn't have to be the chest. The artwork is out of the chest. But like, yeah, you find a guy with a big old hole in his butt.
Yeah.
Fucking Dreamcatcher style.
I mean, I don't know why your parties are searching that.
I erased that movie from my mind. Thanks for putting it right back in there.
Come on. Anything that gives you the phrase shit weasels is the best fucking thing.
Is it?
Yes.
I'm gonna go home and watch that movie now.
I'm gonna watch the shit out of that movie. I'm so upset how bad the movie was because the book was fucking amazing.
I can imagine. Most of those book to movie adaptions were not very well done.
No.
But anyways.
No. Yep, anyway, yeah. So, I do think that bursting out of, and like an odd thing, like out of an eye socket.
Yeah.
Right? Or it shouldn't just be directly out of the center of the chest, out from the armpit.
Yeah.
Right? Like they should be chewing their way to the path of least resistance.
Start choking, goes right through the throat.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And it's coming out with velocity.
Oh,
Yes.
I think so. It launches.
Yeah.
It launches and splats on the ground for 1 damage and then just takes off. Right?
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Right? I like the idea of, you can progressively see this person getting worse and worse, and you're like, well, what's going on? And you just can't tell.
They're eating
And
and
then
eating
all
and
of a
eating,
sudden,
they're
like,
getting sick.
You go, and then just blood and bile and
I'm so glad we have that
pus.
sound recorded now.
Yeah, it just like explodes out their mouth.
Like your NPC, because you have to infect an NPC first,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You can't just do this to a player character without warning. That's not
No,
fair.
you just do it to their boyfriend or whatever.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah. But the idea of them going, are our rations good? Do you guys feel it? Oh, I'm not feeling good. Hold on, I gotta go step behind a tree for a minute. There's something wrong with my stomach.
Mm-hmm.
And then suddenly screaming and gurgling. And remember, they burst out. This person might not be dead if it comes out from a stomach.
Yeah.
I mean,
He's writhing in pain.
yeah, we have magical healing.
Yeah.
So that's actually kind of fun.
Oh, that'd be some like psychotic damage right there.
Yeah.
But I was also thinking of doing it the opposite of like the tapeworm aspect, where like
So it goes up the butt?
up the butt. But no matter how much they eat, they're not satiated because it's in their stomach eating whatever they eat.
They're
And
always
so
hungry.
They're
yeah.
always hungry, and your rations are disappearing.
Yeah.
And then it's not until like one night where you do watch with them that you find out that they're eating all of the food at night, kind of thing. And so it became like that long, slow play horror, and then all of a sudden it just bursts out of their stomach, and you realize, oh well,
Yeah.
Tapeworms are bitches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just think they're a dick, and then
Yeah, you're like, fuck you, and you draw your sword, you're like, what the fuck are you doing eating all of our food, all of our rations?
Yeah.
Like, we picked you up, we took you in, like, what's wrong with you? And then,
okay, I know we haven't talked about the Chaos Phage yet, but this is when, I mean, spoiler, we'll get to this, I'm jumping ahead, but
yeah.
Speaking of the eating habits, I don't imagine Slaadi do a whole lot of cooking. I assume they eat their meat raw.
yeah.
For sure.
So your NPC is eating rarer and rarer meat, and then just raw bloody meat.
Yeah.
And then you wake up in the middle of the night to find that their shoulders are broader and they're hulking over the dead horse, just going to town on it, right? Or over the halfling that was traveling with you, and the halfling is dead. And they've got like a fucking arm sticking out of their mouth as they're eating. Like,
Crunch, crunch. You wake up just bone crunching.
yeah.
Wet squelching.
I imagine
sucking the marrow out of the bone.
Delicious.
I don't know. I imagine them eating stuff whole, like just. Right? If they can fit it in their mouth, they're just swallowing it like a snake. So you wake up and you see them like their head tilt back and an arm in the mouth just slowly going down.
Like snaking it down.
And then just like licking the fingers as it goes in.
Hold on, I gotta add one extra level to it. Their head is back, the arm is sticking out, but it's sticking out like the whole forearm is, and a long ass tongue wraps around it and drags it in. This is why I like Slaadi. Role-playing options for tadpoles, there are essentially none.
Yeah.
Exploration opportunities for tadpoles. Follow the slime, follow the blood, follow the corpses. Right?
Yeah, you come across a gross, weird, sludgy pond, but it's not actually a pond. It's just
it's
puddle
viscera.
of viscera. Yeah. Like, you know.
And as for combat, I mean, they come at you and they bite.
Yeah.
They'll probably try to get as close as possible. They don't have a whole lot of intelligence or wisdom. They don't have a whole lot of charisma. But I do feel like they would have enough instinct to know when to hide when they're outmatched.
Yeah, I feel like they still have a survival instinct.
Exactly. Right? So they'll hide unless they're backed into a corner, and then they'll fight. And they'll wait to latch onto something or somebody that is alone. Right.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Red Slaad for a moment.
Let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it. So Red Slaad stand about 8 feet tall, weighing up to 700 pounds. They are also called the blood Slaad, and they are large bipedal frogs with red skin. They can be flecked or just straight, come in all sorts of shades, right? There's no real, what's the word I'm looking for?
Pattern?
Yeah, pattern.
They could be mauve, they could be like fire truck red.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and that's it, is they all do look different from each other, but they are all gross.
Yes.
Can you imagine one that's just completely smooth?
No.
Oh,
I don't want it.
I don't know why, but I just...
Adam, why are you the worst?
They've generally got a ridge of short spines that run down their spines, and they've got long, sinuous arms that hang down almost to their feet, and massive hands tipped by equally massive claws meant to rend flesh from bone. These basically look like apes mixed with a frog.
Yeah, with a frog head and no neck. Right?
Yeah, and then just the long, gangly arms that are almost like dragging air along the ground.
Gangly is a fun word.
Gangly.
Gangly. Gangly parts.
They are short-tempered, vicious, and dumb as a bag of rocks. Red Slaads are the lowest-ranking member of the Slaad family in 5e, other than the Tadpoles. They are often used as thugs by the higher-ranking Slaads to increase their numbers. A gland under their claws can implant eggs into a victim's skin that will gestate into a tadpole, which then begins feeding on their host. When the tadpole has gotten all the nutrients it can from a host, eventually evolving into a blue or green Slaad, if it is a spellcaster of 3rd level or higher. From what I have gathered, they've remained relatively unchanged, other than being neutered of a couple of their abilities. And then they also used to have a juggernaut form when they consumed too much chaos energy.
So they spent too much time around in the mating spawn pool.
Yeah.
They become a juggernaut. Ew. I mean, I love that for them.
Yeah.
Do you?
It's only the
I feel
smooth.
like you don't.
It's only the smooth ones that do.
Ew. The bigger they get, the smoother they get.
Yeah,
And it stretches their skin out.
And I feel like their voices are really calm, too. The smooth ones are, I am a juggernaut.
Ew. I hate it.
What's wrong, Megan?
Stop it, Adam. Don't look at me.
They are large, chaotic, neutral aberrations with 14 AC from their natural armor, 93 hit points, and 30 feet of walking speed. It does seem weird that they don't have like a jump or a swim speed. I was
expecting like a jump or a climb or something.
Yeah.
You know, because they're technically, in my mind, amphibious, but I think they don't even have the amphibious trait.
No, they don't. But I imagine like swimming through limbo too, right? Like just...
I really feel like they need to be a little bit more amphibious, a little bit more frog-like.
Yeah.
I want the jump, I want the tongue, I want the swim speed.
Yeah.
I just realized that I said on the internet that I wanted the tongue.
Yeah.
Well, you're not the only one, Adam, so...
Wow, guys!
Megan, if you could leave for a moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, I gotta give you a hot second.
Well, we're going to make a spawning pit here.
let me get the crystal for you.
That's an interesting shade of red you've turned, Kyle. That is the noise it makes.
But only the smooth ones, right? I really don't want to go into the discussion of what they sound like.
For stats,
Thank you for rescuing us.
Thanks for that, yeah.
they have a +3 to strength and con, +1 to dex, and a -2 for intelligence, wisdom, and charisma. They only get a +1 to perception for skills. They have resistance to acid, cold, fire, and lightning, and thunder damage. 60 feet of dark vision, and they can speak Slaad, but they also do get 60 feet of telepathy. For abilities, they get magic resistance, so advantage on saving throws against spells and other magical effects, and regeneration, where as long as they have 1 HP, they get 10 back at the beginning of their turn. They get a multi-attack, which is 3 attacks. It's 1 bite and 2 claws. The bite is +6 to attack, 5-foot reach, and deals 2d4 +3 piercing damage. The claws are where the fun comes in. So they have the same deal, but they do 1d8 +3 piercing damage instead. And also, if the target is humanoid, it has to make a DC 14 Constitution saving throw or become a host for the Slaad's egg. A single host can only carry 1 egg at a time, and it takes 3 months for it to mature into a Slaad tadpole. There are no additional effects until the 24 hours before the tadpole makes its escape, at which point the host begins to feel unwell. Their speed is halved, and it has disadvantage on all attacks, ability checks, and saving throws. When the tadpole is ready, it will burrow out through the victim's body, nibbling on various tasty organs on the way out. It takes 1 round to do so and kills the host in the process. The disease can be cured.
So it does kill the host. It's not like you can sit there and be healed.
Oh.
You need resurrection magic.
I feel as a DM you could retcon that, though, and be like, you're alive.
I feel like for my sidekicks, my important NPCs, I'll let them try to
have a
heal.
moment. Yeah.
You get some final words.
Oh, it just sits there on the ground, staring at the open wound in its stomach. What happened?
This is pure psychic
damage.
Get out.
Yay.
Yay.
It gives no symptoms before the day it actually happens. Would you warn your players that something was wrong with them beforehand, or would you give them a clue that they might have an egg implanted in them? Or would you just let them not know for 3 months in game time?
For a player?
Yeah, for a player.
Oh, you let them know. You let them know that they've got an hour to deal with this shit. You are feeling bad. You were getting levels of exhaustion all day for no reason.
Yeah, if someone does a medicine check on you and is successful, I'd be like, yeah, you now have a thing.
Yeah.
No, but I mean when they're first implanted. Like, let's say you're playing with somebody who has no idea what a Slaad is, right? When they first get attacked.
Oh, within 3 months? No.
Yeah.
No, I'm going to let it go. So 3 months is roughly 90 days. They go 89 days with no idea. We did this at level 4.
Yeah.
We are now level 13, and you are about to burst.
And die.
Yeah. Do you think that it doesn't speak Slaad, the tadpole that comes out, but do you think it would be able to, in common, say, Mommy, as it comes out.
You would make it do that, yes.
Yeah.
Because you're a monster.
Well, I mean...
My God. Do they have languages? Sorry, that's one thing that I couldn't quite...
Yeah,
they have...
They speak Slaad.
and
to
they
themselves, but...
have telepathy.
Okay.
Yeah, and I feel like in the past editions we've seen merchants and stuff, like Slaadi merchants. Some of them would know common if they've been out in the multiverse enough. So.
Yeah, for sure.
Anyway.
Is that it?
Did you have more, Kyle?
No, that's it.
That's it. Yeah, they're frog people. They poke you. You get infested with a with a slug, and then you die. Congratulations.
I'm sorry. I'm looking it up right now about their intelligence of 6. They are as intelligent as I see, like a knoll.
Yeah. But I think that kind of speaks to the fact that they have a purpose. So having existential amounts of knowledge and intelligence is not really necessary.
Yeah, they're smarter than a hill giant, and like I say, they're not traditionally dumb.
No,
they just why would they ever read a book?
Yeah, they're focused.
Yeah,
they're like, this is what I'm doing with my life. I don't need you to know anything else.
Yeah. Oh, and they're distracted from doing any real learning.
Yeah,
right. So they learn by personal experience only.
Yeah.
And so. I don't think that they are going to be hilarious oafs that are tripping over themselves.
No. They're frightening and creepy and gross and want one thing, and that is your face.
Yes.
Like.
All right. Shall we roll dice again?
Yeah,
We're
man.
having such fun with the dice.
I swear it was a 7. I got it. Oh.
I got an
wow.
8.
4.
2.
All right. I keep asking myself questions. Okay, so for a red Slaad.
Would you like me to ask you questions this time?
Would that make you
Please.
feel better?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Adam, could you give us a quest that you would use?
For a red Slaad?
Yes.
These sort of creatures are not necessarily out there for big schemes and big plots. A simple quest, whether it's a little sidebar or a one-off adventure to do today, if it's just a single red Slaad, you gotta nip this shit in the bud right now, right? You can't let one of these things out and be loose, or now you have a Slaad problem.
Mm-hmm.
So this is one of these instances where it is an NPC who knows what you're dealing with, can describe the body horror to you, and say, look, this is what's happened. Come, I'll take you to our morgue area, right? And I will show you what's happened to other people. It's somewhere loose here in the village. Go get it. And it's a hunt, right? You have to get it, and there's a time limit. Don't let it kill more people.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then I feel like it's going to be attached to something much larger, because you have to remember that at some point it might be in the town because it is being controlled by someone.
Yeah.
And so it might be like the one that they sent off to go and kill or infect like their big bad enemy.
The other thing that I really like as well is that if you have a red Slaad who is being controlled by someone with a chaos phage, the quest here is that person is getting the red Slaad to run around and slice at people, not kill them.
Yeah.
So everyone in the village has been wounded by this thing, and nobody's been killed by it. And it's been a problem for 2.5 months.
Yeah. They have all these scratches that won't necessarily heal or like things like that, right?
Yeah, and there's all these stories of it, but they're like, it's uncomfortable, it's gross, it's painful, but we're okay. Like, we're not dying.
Mm-hmm.
Can you please deal with this thing? And then by the time that you go out for a week into the wilderness, or you fight the thing and you come back, to everybody just one at a time start just chest bursting. The whole village starts to go.
Just popping off.
I'm just imagining your party walking into town, and then the first person they walk up to talk to, it's just like, and they're like, oh shit, and then they go to the next person, and then it happens, like as soon as they get like 2 words out, and then your party is just going around town as each person dies individually.
Fuck me, could you imagine a cult leader that has control of a red Slaad, and everybody has, we're going to make the next 3 months of our lives the most important, we're going to live life to the fullest, because we're all going to get scratched today.
That was going to be my quest.
Oh, was that your thing?
I was like, I love cults.
Sorry, Megan.
No, I love the idea of the fact that there's like this one leader who has control over multiple of these things.
Yeah.
And is basically just gathering as much control as it can, but its power is only so far. So it's very, very specific to a certain area. And then your group happens to come across it. Like, I can see this being a horror zone in Strahd somewhere.
I also love the idea that he doesn't quite understand, because these things are born without the control gems.
Yeah.
So he won't be able to control them, but he doesn't know that because he's never met a Slaad that didn't have a control gem.
Yeah.
Oh.
So this is going to blow up in his fucking face. He's the only one that didn't, get the scratch. He didn't drink the Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
Right? And so I'm going to control an army. No. Now you have blue Slaads, tons of them, and they're going to warp your ass.
Yeah. But I also love the idea of potentially someone knows that they can control these things by taking the gems out of their brain.
Yeah.
But fails a few times. So is now, like, psychotic. Because, like, they take all that psychic damage from failing to take it.
No, it's a Slaad that takes the psychic damage.
Or does it?
Yeah.
I thought it was the other way around.
No, it's a
Because you're
Slaad.
poking in their brain.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Although, I do like the idea of the... fuck, I screwed up again. All right, hold on. There's just like a pile of Slaad corpses. their fucking heads cracked open and just gems discarded in the corner because they're no good anymore.
Ew. I love it.
Oh, and then they're trying to form all the gems together to make something so they don't even need to go get control gems.
I just had another idea, but I'm gonna let you do yours, Kyle, because I don't want to step on anybody's toes.
Yeah.
Like, you all...
I feel bad.
I mean, yeah, I was thinking about it, like, you can't really do anything too complicated with them the way they are. I wouldn't mind doing something where you play up the rivalry between the Reds and the Blues.
Yeah.
Right? Like a Slaad Olympics.
Yeah, we didn't really talk much about, like, if a red was to meet a blue, what that would be like.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Well, the Reds would the blue would smack the red around. The red would know that they can't take it, so the blue wins. So there we go. There's the power dynamic.
Yeah.
And they do what they're told.
Yeah, that's true.
Until they fuck off and go do something else. Right.
Yeah.
I'm down for the Olympics, though.
Can you imagine the NPC, the little girl who's just walking walking along the road by herself, just a little elven girl by herself, and the party comes across her, and the only thing of note about her is the fact that she's got this really nice necklace with a red gem right in the center of it, and they're like, "What are you doing out here by yourself?" She's like, "No, I'm fine. I'm protected." And in the shadows, her red Slaad is walking beside and watching and whatnot, and she's got this protector.
That's so adorable.
Yeah.
I feel like that's some anime shit right there.
That is some anime shit right there, yeah, 100%. That's some cult anime shit right there.
Yeah.
That girl's gonna be your big bad evil gal real quick.
Adam, what about exploration or clues?
With these guys, I mean, they're pretty bestial. I was looking up what they're smarter than a hill giant. They're sentient, right? So, and they have a language they can speak. Mm-hmm. This is not grunts and groans. They just don't have a multisyllabic vocabulary. Yeah. Because why would they, right? They can form full sentences. They can communicate what they need. And again, telepathic, right? So, and that's something we haven't really talked about. Mm-hmm. They're telepathic. They're going to talk to you in your brain. What does that sound like?
Well, it depends on how smooth they are.
Yeah, I was like, did we just talk about this? The smoother they are, the softer the voice.
I feel like they've all got like really snooty British accents when they're talking in your head.
Yeah.
Just trying to make themselves sound smarter.
Yeah. Is that what happens?
I imagine they're just like skipping a bunch of words, right? Like, why use many words when few words do good?
Thanks, Kyle.
I for exploration, I feel like you're following the body. This is a lot of the same with the Tadpole. There's not anything that's too intense here except carnage.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, because they are spreading their eggs, I don't think they're going to stick around in one area too long.
Do you think they would want to see their come to fruition though, or do you think they just lay their egg and peace out?
Do they care?
Peace out, because it's gonna form a blue or a green, both of which are gonna try to take power over it. Yeah, that's true. So it's just like Slice, peace out, bye.
Yeah.
I don't even think they mean to do it. It's just like a part of themselves, right?
Yeah.
Like they just slash and then an egg's in there.
Yeah.
I have a question. What pronouns do they use?
It and they. They're hermaphroditic.
Are they? Okay. Because none of them are wearing clothes. I guess the green one's wearing clothes in the picture. But, even then it's a skirt. Mm-hmm. But they clearly don't have genitals.
Yeah.
No.
And believe me, I have Google search for slutty genitals. And let me tell you. Megan, look at this.
You are on a list somewhere.
If any of our enterprising young fans would like to send Adam,
you hate it.
Ribbit for your pleasure.
oh,
Stop!
get out of here.
Ew, there it is. I hate you.
No, honestly, you're following the carnage, and I think that there would be like this remote farmhouse, out in the outskirts of the city, got attacked. One person was killed. 3 other people were slashed, and then 3 nights later, further down the perimeter of the kingdom, this happened to another farmhouse, and then it looks like it went in a little bit closer to the city for a little while, and then hit a couple of people there. Someone was mugged on the road, and tells tales of a giant red toad that was with claws that came out. And like, this is kind of how you would start to hunt it down. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's going to come into the city. It's smart enough to know that's how it dies.
Yeah. No, I was thinking that, like, yes, the carnage of human bodies, but I can also, because they can also do it to non-humanoid things. They just don't turn into another Slaad. They just die, right?
Yeah.
So, like, I feel like they would go after the crops, because it would, like, feed on it just enough, and then it would scratch it to be able to feed on just enough. They would survive, and then, like, all of a sudden you have a bunch of, like, dead crops.
Do you think they can do it to like, non-humanoids?
I think it says that, like, they can do it to any creature, but if it's a humanoid, then it turns into a Slaad. Okay. From what I understood.
So it has no use for Fae or Celestials.
Yeah, from what I understand, it is only humanoids that will turn.
Yeah, that's the writing on the flavor text for the clause. It says if it's a humanoid, it lays an egg.
Yes. Therefore, if it is not a humanoid, I'm under the understanding that it probably just bursts out and it dies.
Yeah, it would say that. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay. Kyle, do you have any insights for exploration?
No, same thing as you.
It's the same thing. It's pretty straightforward with these guys.
Yeah. How about combat?
I mean, they're ambushers if they're by themselves.
Yeah.
They're going to be bolder if they're with others, and they're going to follow the other colored Slaadi, right? So,
yeah.
Clearly, I think the biggest red Slaad in a group of red Slaad will be the leader. If they get cut down or they get even partway wounded, one of the other Slaadi might take the opportunity to knock him out.
Yeah.
And become I am the leader now, right?
You are injured. Yeet. Yeet, I say.
Yeah.
That's what I heard in my head because they're telepathic.
Do you think it's considered gauche to implant eggs into other Slaadi?
No, because I don't think there is any sort of societal expectation for them.
No, but do you think they would inherently know, the same way that we inherently know don't eat rotten meat, right? It's built into biology to spread your genes far and wide and not do that at home.
Yeah, but
right?
I mean,
like, do you think that the red Slaad would know not to, if they were to, for example, hit a green Slaad with an egg, they're just going to make a different green Slaad. Like, what's the fucking point? Right?
Yeah, so it's a victimless crime, right? It doesn't do anything. It just creates a new one of them. It might erase their memory. So let's say there's a green Slaad and it is your leader. You might put an egg in it so it kills them. Oh, no, but it's not a humanoid, so it wouldn't work.
Yeah, they're not humanoids.
No, they're aberrations. Okay, so they can't do it. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, there we go. That answers that.
There you go.
Could you imagine the red Slaad that goes after the fucking mayor and gets him and then immediately turns into like a gray Slaad? Like, what the fuck, dude?
What the fuck's wrong with you?
Oh my god, when did you get here? How long have you been this guy?
Honest mistake, my guy. I'm so sorry.
And everyone else in the town squares just listen to like angry ribbits between two people.
It's in the background.
Any other insights about combat? It's pretty straightforward. I feel like they're ambushers.
I also just like the visual. I feel like they sharpen their nails a lot. Like I don't know. I feel like they sharpen their claws.
Okay.
I feel like you'd see scratch marks on rocks and shit too.
Yeah.
Like,
of them trying to sharpen them up.
I found one mention of them sleeping in all of my online research, and only one mention of it. And I feel like they don't sleep long or well.
Yeah.
So I feel like they don't have like, it holed up here and nested for 3 days in this abandoned shed before it moved on. No, this thing's moving.
Yeah.
Right? So.
Or it might hibernate while it's waiting for something.
For cold-blooded creatures, and I assume because they're frogs, they're cold-blooded.
Yeah.
I assume that all aberrations are cold-blooded, but for cold-blooded creatures, it's called burmating, not hibernating. Which is
They
I
just get
only know
real tired.
geckos, yeah. Yeah, it just slows them down in the winter, and they'll sleep longer during the days, but they're still going to be relatively active.
Yeah.
So, they don't do a full hibernation like bears do.
Mm.
How about blue Slaad?
Blue Slaads!
The blue Slaad.
All right, well, they look big and beefy like toady frogs. So, broad shoulders, really creepy looking, kind of like dad bod, but like ready to, tank a fight, But this is also frightening because they do stand at the tallest at 10 feet tall. So they're your big frog toad guys.
The thing that I really like about them is their claws are different.
Yes. So they have 2 very long scimitar-looking claws on their hands that give them basically a special ability, which I'll get into a little bit later. But yeah, they're basically like weapons.
They're Wolverine claws that they
Yeah.
can't retract, right? As opposed to the fingernail claws of the red Slaad.
Yep. So the special ability I'm talking about is that it can give its victim something called is the disease we've been referring to, which is the chaos phage. Which, again, I'll go into detail when I get to the stats abilities. But they are seemingly unchanged for the D&D editions, other than, of course, as we spoke to, a couple of different things that have changed about their abilities over time. But they are written as though, again, they are the grunt or errand runners for soldiers of more powerful Slaadi, so similar to the Reds. This means that you can come across packs of these, in my mind. Not like the red ones where I feel like they're running around on their own. Like, I feel like these would come in packs.
Yeah. The red ones are going to be your foot soldiers in an army. These guys are going to be your corporals.
Yeah.
Right. They're not officers, but they're trusted to do shit a little bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah. They said the Reds they'll maybe travel in gangs of like 2 to 4.
Yeah. Whereas I think what I read, these ones are like in gangs of like maybe 6 to 10-ish, but they do technically prefer to travel on their own.
Yeah.
But they will travel in packs if it's necessary.
Okay.
Yeah. So to get into their stats, they are, of course, a large aberration that are chaotic neutral. They have natural armor of 15, an average amount of hit points. They are over 100, so they're quite stronger than the Reds. So that makes them a CR of 7. They are beefed with a strength of +5 and a con of +4, followed by their dex at +2, with their int and wisdom and charisma being below average at -1. So still a little bit above your Red, but still below your average intelligence.
They're thug level.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're your thugs. They're your bodyguards. This is the one that I imagine being the little girl's friend traveling behind in the forest.
Yeah, okay.
Living in wait.
See, the problem with that is that little girl's going to have weird frog-like shit going on.
Yeah.
She's got...
That makes it hit different.
Yeah. You go to talk to her and suddenly she has that like frog bulge on the neck.
I imagine them having the same eyes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, like blinking like weirdly too. Ugh. All right, so they have an added +1 to their perception, which gives them a passive perception of 11. They do have, of course, damage resistance to acid, cold, fire, lightning, and thunder, along with dark vision and all those fun things that the Red, I think, had as well.
Tadpole had all that shit too.
Yeah, so all the same. The main difference that they have is that they are more built for fighting. So we can see this in their attacks. They do have the 3-time multi-attack with 1 bite and 2 of their claws. But their claws are a little bit more beefed up. It increases to a +8 to hit with 12 average damage, along with their claws being a +8 to hit with an average of 12 damage. Their claws, though, are what cause the chaos phage, which is the disease we were talking about earlier. It's a 15 DC con save, or you are infected. During the infection, you cannot regain hit points, and your max hit points are decreased by 3d6 every 24 hours. So and the only thing like spells to get rid of it are like big ones, like cure disease or greatly restore vitality, all those big reversal spells.
There's less restoration's not going to do it.
No.
Right?
I thought it said only wish.
No, that we'll get to the only wish.
Okay.
So while you are diseased, these spells will help you while you're still alive.
Okay.
So if their hit points are then reduced down to death, they become a red Slaad. Unless they are a magic user already and have the ability to cast spells above level 3, then you become a green. Then only a wish spell can revert after they have transformed.
Okay.
Neat, right?
This is delicious.
Right? I thought that was really cool because you could... because in my mind, because if you were to have this disease, phase yourself, slowly transform into a frog, like green or red Slaad.
How long does the transformation take?
How long it takes you to die.
That's it, hey?
As soon as you're dead, you change.
Yeah, because you like slowly become it, right? Like you're dropping hit points, it's your body transforming.
That 3d6 is fucking terrifying for peasants because 4 hit points.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? Like your commoners are 4 hit points. Your NPCs will drop that night.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They have 24 hours. Your heroes will take a couple of weeks, but
Yeah.
crazy.
So the other fun thing to note is that the disease can actually be detected by Detect Evil.
Oh,
all right.
All right. Cool.
So if you, again, as a DM, if you want to throw someone a bone to find out, or if you don't want to give them a bone, but like use the rules as written, if they use Detect Evil at some point, you would be able to detect that this person is diseased, and possibly find out that a wish is like what spells you can use to revert it, or again, be able to, I feel like you could detect it on an actual already transformed Slaad, and then use Wish to transform them back.
Yep.
So the other thing, though, to keep in mind, though, is that they lose all of their memories.
You're rolling the dice, though, because if you use a wish to turn them back, but they were made in the spawning stone, nothing happens. You burn your wish.
Yeah.
Okay. And the presence of a control gem is a good indicator, but it's not foolproof, because if they were from the spawning stone and had the gem removed and then destroyed, they still weren't another person.
Yeah, but I can imagine that it's a pretty good bet if you detect it on a red, because they don't inherently have the Chaos Phage. It's only the blue that you'd be able to detect it on right away. So if you came across a red, used the Detect Evil on it, and it's like, yes, you do detect that it has the disease, Chaos Phage, you can kind of safely assume that it once was something not of a Slaad.
Oh, interesting.
Does it still have the disease when it's a Slaad, or because you hit 0 hit points, you died?
Yeah. It's not necessarily rules as written, but that's how I assume that it would work.
It's weird they detect evil, but they're chaotic neutral.
Yeah, so I think that Detect Evil is the phage itself, that is this almost curse that is killing you.
Yeah.
So you'll only be able to do that till you hit 0 hit points, and then after that, a Slaad is a Slaad is a Slaad.
Okay. I like my way better.
I like your way as I might throw that bone to my players, but I don't think that that's rules as written.
Yeah, fine. I just thought it would have been a really fun plot hook to turn one back and see what happens.
Yeah. Well, it depends on what the wording of the wish is, right? Like, I wish they were no longer a Slaad. Maybe they just turned into something else.
Yeah.
Turn into something worse.
Yeah. But the kicker is that, like, and this is why, again, now that I speak about it more, it really doesn't make sense, is because when you do turn into a Slaad, you forget your past. You forget all your memories, you are a Slaad.
Yeah.
So then if all of a sudden that was to be reversed and you went back to your human form, it's not like your memories would come back.
No.
Right?
No. You regain your human form, not your humanity, not your history.
And now
Once
you have
again, wording of the wish.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I wish that they were restored to how they were. Right?
Yeah.
Like, sure.
Interesting.
Something along those lines. Is
Yeah.
there any more for these guys?
No, that's pretty much it.
Grab dice.
Oh, 20.
I went from
You
10 to
both
2
have a
to
20.
20.
Yeah.
So you guys roll off on a 20.
All right, Kyle. I got a 1.
I got a 12.
All right, Kyle, you're first, and then me, and then Megan. So Kyle, do you have a good quest for these blue Slaad?
Yeah, so I was thinking some sort of genetic engineering scenario, right? Like, I like the idea of a powerful mage, got a bunch of control gems, and now has all these blue and red slots, and he's been going all over kidnapping people to try and find the best combo of who to turn, right? Like, what makes the strongest Slaads afterwards. And so the party goes to this prison, right? And then there's just all these Slaads, like too many to fight. So it becomes more of a creative play as opposed to a combat. Like, how are they going to deal with this prison?
That's a skill challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. My thing is that there's a blue Slaad who is making red Slaads. And if he can make enough red Slaadi, then he'll be able to challenge the green Slaad that only has 4 or 5.
Oh.
And then he will be the powerful one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I imagine the blue one is creating its own army of Slaad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the blue one could move in a gang of up to 10 other blue ones, or it can be, king of the hill with a shit ton of red ones.
Yeah. And again, I feel like you could also use this as the control stone pieces too if you were to have an army. Like, the general of your army would be your blue Slaad.
Could you imagine as well, like, the red Slaadi go out and they infect all of these humanoids, and when they turn, right, when the egg bursts forward, and then that tadpole becomes a blue Slaad, the original blue Slaadi standing over there, ready to just whoop their ass before they're completely mature, just to keep it in fucking line. I am the leader here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Role-playing tips?
I mean, no different from a red, really. I mean, the only thing I can think of is they might lord their preeminence over the red, like, oh, I am better than these guys. But
yeah, I do think that they're going to be more concerned with power than the reds are. The reds are eating. The reds are concerned with food, drink, and sleep.
yeah.
The blue are also concerned with power. They're also, I think, going to be more likely to trade. I defeated this hero. I have no use for their armor.
Yeah.
You, however, have 4 horses. I will give you this magical armor that is worth 10,000 gold pieces for your 4 horses. I'm hungry.
Yeah. They're not that much smarter than the red, though. It's what, 6 to 7?
Yeah, but I feel like
it's up by 1.
but the red don't have the power to be able to pull off anything. And the blue are smart enough to know it.
Yeah, I feel like they're aware that they have a certain amount of dominance, so they can operate slower and take time to consider their options. Whereas I imagine the red are a little more sporadic. They have that chaos to them. They're just like they're operating on their needs.
Yeah,
right?
it's not a stat thing here. It's a power thing at this point, right? Where do they sit in the Slaadi hierarchy? And they would inherently know that. Like I say, they're thug level. They're not stupid, right? And there's still a chaos to them, and they may change their tactics or their goals, but they're very much going to be. They're going to have broader horizons than a red would.
Yeah. The way I see it is that because they are so focused on power, that's the only thing they think about, right? That's how they approach every situation. Like, oh, I am stronger than you, so you must do as I do, or as I tell you.
Yeah.
Or I attack.
So there's no bargaining. You're just going to give me your 4 horses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, they're not, that won't be their first idea. It's like, oh, you work for me now because I'm stronger.
But they're still smart enough. You got to think about it like I do think about it like a gang leader, like a bandit captain kind of scenario, where they're going to be smart enough to know I can't take these guys. These are legit heroes, but they have something I want, and if I get it, I become more powerful among my contemporaries because these guys are not out for world domination. They're not liches. They're not vampires. They are violent, but they are still just an NPC race with their own motivations. And I think that while the red are violence and chaos, the blue are violence and chaos and power, and they don't have a 3-year plan, but they've got a 3-week plan.
Yeah. But I mean, that's the thing too. Like, I would almost think that the red is more likely to do it because it understands its place more. So it's going to want whatever you have to make itself more powerful so that it doesn't have to worry about being taken into a gang by a blue.
Sure, I see the blue doing the same thing, though, with the green.
Yeah.
The green has magic. How do I compete with magic?
Yeah. Right?
And so they're going to be looking for those really big boons. So, Megan, you've been quiet.
What? No, I imagine them, as I said, they operate slower. Like, if I was to compare a red to a blue, you're going to play the red a lot faster, and I feel like you're going to play the blue a lot slower. I'm thinking like hyena versus a bear.
Yeah.
So when you're role-playing it, I feel like you're operating slower.
Yeah, there's more immediacy for a red than for a blue.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. Thug, that's just going to take its time to think about what it wants to do, not necessarily just react.
Significantly smarter now than a hill giant, right? Like, these things are not just barely sentient. They do have plans and plots and schemes. They're just simplistic plans and plots. And schemes,
yeah.
Right, so, exploration or clues, Kyle?
I mean, same with the other ones. I don't think you're going to get anything really exciting from them.
No.
Or wherever they do. Because I don't even think they'll... I don't imagine the lower level Slaads really even paying attention to where they're going or where they came from, right? You go, oh, what are the directions back to the castle? And they go,
there's a waterfall at one point. When?
Yeah.
I don't know. What, do I have a clock? Shut up. Right? Like,
Yeah.
Shut up. That's when. Right? And I think that one of the things about if you're in a Slaadi adventure, you are going to need to keep an eye on the creatures that are slowly transforming.
Yes.
And I feel like when you are losing your hit points, you're actively going through that transformation. Your skin is changing, your eyes are changing, your arms are getting longer. And this is where the body horror of the blue Slaad comes in, right? Because they're turning into red Slaad slowly.
Yeah.
So you'll be able to find the blue Slaad by following all of the people that have been infected by the Chaos Phage.
Yeah.
Right? By watching this. And like I say, NPCs, they don't have big lifespans and pools of hit points. So, like, the blue one's near. It's a day or two away, right?
Yeah. I like well, I guess you could do that too, where you're following either little bits of body parts down a trail, right? Like it's just skin sloughing off, right? So you'll find a chunk of forehead and nose with cartilage still attached, just like laying there, and then a little bit more skin layered further down.
Oh, hell, go balls to the wall here, Kyle, because, like, literally, they don't have genitals anymore.
Yeah, I guess you can do that too, but
Gross,
I mean,
Adam.
interesting choice. I also imagine that when they turn, they're like turning on the inside underneath the skin, and then all of a sudden, the skin just opens up like a banana being peeled outwards.
And they burst forth from their own skins.
And then it just like drops the skin, so you just come across these like...
Oh, okay. I thought you were going somewhere else. I was thinking like their skin is changing, but their organs are also changing on the inside.
Yeah.
And so like the last thing, when they hit 0 hit points, they just vomit up like their gallbladder and their kidney, because they don't need two, because the Slaadi only have one. Like, and there's a sack of organs on the ground.
That's pretty good too.
Yeah.
Gross. But I also imagine that, like, if this was happening to one of your characters, like, very close NPCs, they're going to try and keep them alive by healing them, and they can't.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like that very dramatic, we've been through a dramatic scene where you can't heal someone. And you're doing everything you can in your power to heal, to do these things, and then, like, the only way to detect it is detect evil. No one's going to think to use that.
No.
Like...
No, and there are going to be like, okay, remove curse? Fuck, that didn't work. Less restoration? Fuck, that didn't work.
Yeah.
And you know that they're going to be sitting there going, hold on, I need another long rest. I'll change my spells, and we'll try this.
Yeah.
And it's not working.
Yeah.
Ugh,
Too late by then.
Yeah.
Combat?
I think they're gonna try to get in the middle of your party and hit as many people as they can with their claws. They're trying to spread that chaos phage to as many people as possible.
Yeah, I think it's hit and run tactics with these guys as well. Like,
barrel in like a bowling ball, just a bunch of pins, and then just run.
Yeah.
You're not really going for kills with Slaadi, which is weird if you've never run into them before, and this big toad creature comes in, slashes everyone once, and fucks off. And you've got enough hit points with the blue Slaad to hit a couple of party members. Even if you miss for a couple of rounds in initiative, you can stand there for a minute before you disengage and fuck off, right?
Yeah.
Megan, any final thoughts about combat?
No, I think we kind of hit it all the thoughts that I had. I think one of the big ones, though, is to remember that even when, and the visual in my head is great, but even when they are coming in, doing their, the pack tactics.
Yeah.
If they're going to do it, they're going to come in together, do their hit, and then they're going to run.
Yeah.
But the beauty of it is to your point, the fact that most of your NPCs or PCs might not have a lot of hit points, they're going to start seeing the transformation right away. They're not going to chase after them.
No.
And if they do, that one that did, your rogue, that was slashed, now has like the phage, doesn't have a lot of hit points. They're going to run after this thing into the forest and disappear and not come back.
Oh, the moment that they get... Okay, so I'm a blue Slaad. I have scratched you, Kyle, right? So I know that you have this chaos phage, and you don't know it. And you come at me as a rogue, I'm going to grapple you, take your weapons, and hold you down and kidnap you, and wait.
Yeah.
I bet they've got people kidnapped as well.
It was actually kind of mentioned that in a couple of like the weird readings of like past histories of them, was that a lot of times what they do is they do corral them together.
Yeah.
So they'll take all the ones that they know that are diseased and put them in one place and wait for them to transform.
That's so internment camp shit
Yeah.
that that's maybe the most evil thing we've just, well, I mean,
Which is why I didn't really want to touch on it, just because of how sensitive it can be, but, like, at the same time, in a D&D campaign, that's something you can come across.
Yeah, that's dark as fuck.
Because you come across a corral, these things are, like, half transformed, like, just transforming.
Yeah.
And then...
Or already have, right? Like, you find the aftermath of this thing, so you just find all these bodies littered.
And to your point, if they're bursting out of the shell of a human, you're finding human shells.
Yeah.
Right? Like, this is, again, it goes back to, like, the alien-esque, like body horror.
Yeah.
You now see the shell of a human cracked open.
Yeah.
Like...
Okay, so I wanted to ask this earlier. With the Chaos Phage. Let's say that your players have now figured out what this is. How do they protect against it?
I don't think you can.
Armor that can't be pierced.
Like high AC armor?
Yeah.
No, protect from good and evil?
Well, it's
Maybe.
not even good and evil, right? Because it's not...
Well, if you can detect evil on it, right?
Yeah, but it's the protection from good and evil is specific about it. Has to be like celestials and fiends and undead.
Yeah.
Like it's not going to cover these. Honestly, range. Don't get within their movement speed. If they run at you, if they double move at you, you double move away. You wait for them to not double move, and then you get a ranged attack in.
Yeah.
And then you, like, this
Get
is
higher than them.
Yeah, this is really going to be you playing the terrain to your advantage to knock those hit points down as quickly as possible. And this is when prep shield and mage armor, right? You want to do things like have your protection paladin there, right? The protection fighting style. Like, there are some little strategies to use, but if you're hunting 4 of these things, someone's gonna get hit by this, right?
Especially if they are going around in a pack, right?
Yeah.
And then as soon as they get them, now you have to worry about the red ones.
Yeah.
Because those are now popping off in the middle of the town, right?
And they're making blue ones.
Yeah. Whoa. But it takes 3 months to make a blue one.
Yeah.
But you don't even know until the day up.
How are you going to know?
Yeah.
They're never going to know.
All right, so before we wrap this episode up, let's cut to our last ad break.
If you've been inspired by the conversation in this episode, please feel free to reach out and share your creativity and ideas with us and the rest of the community. You can reach us on Facebook and Instagram, or on our subreddit r/itsamimic. Also, if you're feeling particularly generous, please follow and subscribe and leave us positive reviews, likes and comments. Engagement like that help us pop up on search engines and keep this show running.
Alright, so guys, after this, are you team red or are you team blue? Like blue pill, red pill, which one are you going to go for?
Oh, man. Honestly, I think blue is so evil. Like, that Chaos Phage is just
It's
merciless.
Dude, yeah. And I love it. Of course.
I love it.
You can affect 2 people each round.
But my thing with the red is that
yeah.
I can implant that so early in a campaign
Yeah.
and not touch on it until I need a random encounter way later.
You just add it to your random encounter list. So like this may occur or may not occur.
Dan explodes.
Of course it's going to be Dan's character. 100%. Oh, man.
So I'm team blue from the storytelling perspective. I'm team red from the chaos perspective.
Yeah. And like the fact that I guess it will depend on the level of your group as well, depending on which one you're going to use.
Yeah.
I feel like you're not going to throw a blue one at your level 2 to 3 party. Like that's just fucked, but you might throw a red at them.
I would totally throw a red at them to scratch everybody once and then leave, and everyone's going to be like, what the fuck was that about?
And then that's a nice quest start, right? Yeah. Like, and you learn a lot about, like, diseases, and I might die, and my NPC is dead, and this is a deadly game. Like, yay!
I actually changed my answer. I'm team little girl.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. With
back on the list.
Yeah. So that's all for this discussion on Slaadi in 5th edition. Make sure that you subscribe or follow and check back regularly to see what inspirations and insights we'll have for you in the future. The next time we circle back to the monsters, we'll be looking into the 3 really scary Slaads that bring all the nightmares. Next week, we'll be looking into one of the most common damage dealing aspects of the game, after combat.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the It's a Mimic podcast. If you'd like to support us, we have a donate button on our website, www.itsamimic.com, a store with some It's a Mimic merch, and a Patreon. This episode and others can also be found on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and most other podcast apps. Thanks again for listening to It's a Mimic, where you never know what you're gonna get.
This has been an It's a Mimic production. Please check the show notes for this episode to see links, time codes, and credits, and don't forget to reach out and share your own inspirations.
Slightly offended for a hot second. I was like, oh. It's like, you twat waffle. I was like,
Is that the word of the year with you? That's 3 times.
yeah, I can actually do it in sign language too.
Can you?
Twat waffle.
Do you have to say it in that voice?
Yes.
Alright.
Also, is it like one sign, or are you doing twat and then waffle?
Twat waffle.
God damn, I have learned a thing that I will never let go of.
Thank you, TikTok.
Who's got a cold open?
Twat. What's up, Dan?
Don't make me the new Dan.
Uh,
That is what we have Terry for.
That's true.
Okay, see you next time.